Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined today by Mr. Denny Carter. There is unfortunately a lot of news, injuries to Justin Jefferson and De'Von Achane, two of the single most important fantasy players of the 2023 season. One we knew going in, one we knew almost nothing about going in, but equally impactful. We will break down a Monday Night Football game that was a little hard on the eyes.
Yeah.
Never good when Jimmy Garoppolo is the best quarterback in the game.
Yikes.
That was a bit of a yikes. Surely there's other news. Let me see here. John Taylor, the Bengals being back, James Conner unfortunately being out, Anthony Richardson unfortunately being out. We'll get to all that in a minute. But Denny,
Man.
I don't know if you heard the real big news this week. It's that a new Daniel Snyder just dropped. and we already had our suspicions about Panthers owner David Tepper. But Frank Reich basically came out in a Monday press conference and was like, yeah, it's Daniel Snyder.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's good. He's like, actually, that's good. And then he kept explaining why it was very bad. And yeah, I was basically saying, help me. And was blinking in Morse code.
That's, you took the words right out of my mouth. If you watch the tape back and you know Morse code, you know what Frank Reich was saying is please help SOS. That's what he said, SOS over and over. But yeah, he was saying, is it fun? No. I mean, literally, he said
he
that.
literally said that.
Is it fun? No. Like, are we having a good time? Absolutely not. Is it good? It is good. It's great, actually.
It might sound like Denny is joking. That actually is what Frank Reich said.
Wow.
Like, he's like, it sucks, but it's amazing. Man, it's just the best time I've ever had in professional football. And sure, my life's in living hell. And I'm literally not allowed to sleep. Wakes me up every morning at 3 a.m. and asking me to trade another first-round pick, but I love it.
Right.
That's football to me.
He says he loves when David Tepper calls him at 3 a.m. and says, how much do you like Bryce Young on a scale of 1 to 10?
And Denny, due to multiple restraining orders, is not allowed to mention Bryce Young beyond the context of the news.
That's right.
That was the lone Bryce Young mentioned Denny's going to be. I'm just a little shocked that the owner who hired a coach because it used to be a short order cook is turning out to be a poor owner.
That is something that I often hearken back to was that David Tepper said, hey, I hired Matt Rule, and the Zoomers may not have heard Matt Rule. He was the coach of the Panthers.
The Zoomers have never heard of the University of Nebraska.
Okay, so Matt Rule had some good years in college at Baylor and Rutgers, right? And then Temple and Rutgers are the same thing to me. Sorry,
they're actually quite different. But continue.
Sorry, folks. But he said, "Hey, I ordered. I
ordered a patty melt.
I ordered Rule because we were both short order cooks and we're both bad dressers. And I'm not making this up. This is not. I'm not even paraphrasing.
No, you're truly not even paraphrasing. That was like almost word for word the quote. And I was like, oh, okay. And apparently beating around multiple bushes here, it seems like David Tepper ordered the Bryce Young code red. And not that he was the only person who thought Bryce Young should have gone first in the draft. And not that Bryce Young is already a bust, despite what some people might have you believe. I'm not going to name name. I'm actually legally not allowed to name the name Craig Dennis Carter. Bryce Young. But it seems like, the Panthers, they're already on maximum tilt. And let's just say they need Bryce Young to show some improvement for the end of the season because they are on max tilt.
I think it would be less tilting for the Panthers if CJ Stroud hadn't been so spectacular over his first month.
Someone resurfaced a tweet. I believe it was our own Zach Kruger.
Yeah.
About like the Panthers sent like every employee in the franchise to like CJ Stroud's pro day or something, or it was an Ohio State game. They were clearly all in on CJ Stroud. Until David Tepper found out that Bryce Young used to be a short order cook.
I think that contingency included David Tepper and his wife.
So he went to see CJ Stroud. He must not like something. It'd be one of those billionaire things. I didn't like the way he shook my wife's hand.
Oh,
that's when I knew we couldn't draft him.
Yeah, and Bryce Young, actually I'm not allowed legally. Clarence Thomas told me I can't talk about Bryce Young, so I will not.
You cannot. Yep, that has been run up multiple flagpoles. But first, we got to get you a little news. NBA training camps start soon. And here is your chance to get an assist with your fantasy draft with the Rotoworld Basketball Draft Guide. Visit NBCSports.com and use the promo code HOOPS23 at checkout to score a 20% discount a $10 e-gift card to Fanatics, and free season-long tools with your draft guide purchase. Really, really good stuff from Raphael and the gang.
Yeah, I need to get in on that, folks, because I'm a thought leader. I'm an NBA thought leader.
You are an NBA thought leader.
I'm ready to get into it.
Enough about short order cooks. Enough about David Tepper. Really, really big news. Justin Jefferson on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. He's out at least 4 games, and a lot of fallout here, but that's just where we will start with the at least 4 games, because the Vikings season's kind of already in the toilet. Justin Jefferson and the Vikings had somewhat acrimonious contract talks over the summer, and almost instantly after he was placed in IR, the national media, the most national of media, and ESPN's Adam Schefter basically stoked the fires that Justin Jefferson might be comfortable sitting out a little longer than 4 games because he's not happy about the contract, not happy about the season. And here was the Schefter tweet, which not to put words in Schefter's mouth or like speak out of turn, but the Schefter tweet seemed sort of agenty, and it'd be a little unsurprising if this did not come directly from Justin Jefferson's camp, where here's the unspoken issue that could potentially lengthen Justin Jefferson's absence via Adam Schefter. If the Vikings don't win games and stay competitive, what is Jefferson's incentive to rush back when he did not land the contract he wanted? His absence could last longer than expected. And literally, if that didn't originate from Justin Jefferson's camp, I'm not really sure what to say. It seems bad if you're the Vikings. It seems bad.
Yeah, look, it is a possibility that you have to allow for, I think. Okay. And I'm going to be, folks, I'm going to be as objective and cool, calm, and collected as possible, because I got a little wild on Twitter and with this Jefferson
Denny
stuff.
Carter, come on, man.
And I have paid dearly, folks, paid dearly. Yeah, I mean, I do think that it is possible that Jefferson is going to be out for a long time. That's what I'll say. Kevin Seifert of ESPN, who covers the Vikings, said that Jefferson will not, quote, feel rushed to come back from injured reserve. I think that plus the Schefter thing, it kind of points to, more than 4 weeks. Now if the Vikings,
Denny, it's kind of seeming like our guy might not feel rushed.
I feel like there will be no rushing. I feel like that hamstring will have to be 110%, folks, for him to come back. Now, if the Vikings over the next 4 weeks win a few games and get back into the thick of things, if that happens, I think Jefferson comes back sooner rather than later. But if it all falls to pieces, they're 1-4 right now. Now, this is where real football actually affects fantasy. Okay, like actual real football stuff. They're 1-4, 3 games out for the lead in the NFC North, right? They're talking about blowing it up. I mean, not they, but folks are talking about blowing it up. If they lose the next 2 or 3 games, it's Jover. Like they're not doing anything. Like this season is almost already lost. So what incentive does Jefferson have to come back to that mess?
Which is a little similar, again, not to cast aspersions. We don't really know what happened with this situation last year, but somewhat similar to the Lamar Jackson situation last season, where bitter contract acrimony, hints that the player maybe could have returned earlier. We never got confirmation of that. For all we know, Lamar was seriously, truly hurt, but it seemed like there was a little bit of that going on. And this already openly talking about it, not very great if you're a fantasy manager. The 4-game stretch that he's currently guaranteed to miss is the Bears, the 49ers, thankfully at home, 49ers, the Packers and the Falcons. 3 of those games are road games. A lot of somewhat winnable matchups there. Even the Packers defense is very up and down. They could go 3-1 in that stretch. If they go 3-1, they'll be like 4-5, I think. That might be I will return now territory for Justin Jefferson. Yeah. But yeah, a lot riding. They need to beat the Chicago Bears this weekend pretty badly.
I think that's that would be a good test of whether this is going to go the right way or the wrong way for Jefferson's return.
So getting it further into the fallout, it is the Bears this weekend. The Bears, even though they beat the Commanders, are just bleeding fantasy points. I mean, hemorrhaging fantasy production. It is Mr. Prolific Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, this is not his first rodeo. He didn't become Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson. He's always been a hashtag ball slinger. Likes to throw it all over the yard, frequently to the other team, Denny. Can Kirk Cousins remain a QB1? And this week are Jordan Addison and K.J. Osborn, both wide receiver 3s, a.k.a. in the top 36.
To answer your first question, it seems impossible that you can lose the best player in the NFL and still the best receiver in the NFL and still be a QB1. But I think that the nature of this Vikings offense, and importantly, the nature of the Minnesota defense, which the nature is bad, that I think that he can still have, borderline QB1 numbers. And by that, I mean like top 12, if we're talking about 12-team leagues. So definitely not elite production, but I'm guessing that you're not going to find a superior option on the waiver wire. As for the receivers, Addison and K.J. Osborn. So K.J. Osborn is reportedly going to take the X role that had been previously inhabited by Justin Jefferson.
I will never just take the X role.
He's taken it, and it's because he has, quote, experience in, quote, the system. Look, KJ Osborn, probably a fine fellow, not particularly great. Okay, he has he's been targeted on 14% of his routes this year. That's abysmal. Just to give folks an idea of what kind of chunk of the receiving game that Justin Jefferson is taking with him. 26% of the targets and 38% of the team's air yards leave with Jefferson. I would think, and I'm sure I'm not alone, that Jordan Addison is going to take not most, but a big chunk of those air yards. Okay, Addison is second on the team in air yard rate. I think Addison becomes a very interesting play with a even higher ceiling than he's had lately. Osborn is a floor PPR option, and then Brandon Powell would be the wide receiver 3, primarily in the slot as a deeper league PPR option. Powell is a little bit interesting. Okay,
yes.
I do want to say just I have some numbers on Powell if I could share those real quick. First of all, he's a 5th-year receiver, never really had a role on a team, so he has that going for him.
Oh, that's great.
He ran 14 routes against Kansas City on Sunday. He was targeted 6 times, and he operated primarily from the slot. Now, the issue with Powell is that I don't know how much he's going to get on the field because the Vikings are only 16th in 3 wide receiver sets. Okay, 54% of their plays are in 3 receiver sets. I could see them doing something like shifting hard to the 2 tight end sets, right? Which means that Powell doesn't see the field a whole lot. So just monitor that.
There have been rumors that it's going to be Josh Oliver season for the Vikings. Not rumors, speculation.
Yeah, sure.
Literally no rumors whatsoever to that effect. Just people speculating on Twitter. I do think, though, it's going to be old habits dying hard for the Vikings. And I think as the season gets more desperate, I can almost see the 3 receiver rate going up without Justin Jefferson, just as they become more desperate and having to throw. I mean, maybe that's not in this 4-game slate, but I don't think they signed Josh Oliver to be like out on the field like constantly and 12-person. I mean, I guess he kind of already has been.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him a lot of money for what
they did give him a lot of money, but it wasn't to catch passes.
No, it wasn't.
And I guess even in 12 personnel though, it's not gonna be like they need him to catch a bunch of passes. I'm ball nowhere, by the way.
Yeah, well, look, he could be interesting. I think the main takeaway, besides Addison, is that TJ Hawkinson is going to see an ungodly number of targets with Jefferson.
To be honest, I think KJ Osborn is too. We've seen this from KJ. KJ Osborn has very seamlessly slid into the Vikings PPR scam 2 or 3 times in his career, and a guy that you don't ever think is good, but has 2 50-yard receiving, 250 catch seasons to his name. He had 12 touchdowns actually over the past 2 years coming into this season. They are very, very comfortable. I don't think that's lip service. I think that he will be out there every snap. Obviously, not that I'm breaking news with that, but he's going to be out there essentially every snap and commanding way. I mean, again, not that I'm breaking news, but the target share is going to go way up to maybe like 25%. What was Justin Jefferson's?
26.
Okay, maybe more like 20%. I was thinking Justin Jefferson would be like 30% or something, but I guess
no, he really wasn't. Like, he wasn't in that like Devontae Adams. Well, usually what is Devontae Adams' range?
But yeah, KJ Osborn is a must-add. I mean, again, not that I'm breaking any news here, but this team, I don't think the Vikings are going to suddenly have some huge philosophical shift, so, especially when the other options are Josh Oliver, Alexander Mattison, and Cam Akers. Like, and especially we've just seen how difficult it is for teams that aren't coached by Nick Sirianni to change their offensive approach mid-season. They say, I can't do it. What do you want me to do? You want me to just play different? No, I can't do that.
No, we can't do that. Do you think Jordan Addison is a must start in 12-team leagues?
I think Jordan Addison, he'll be Not a must start. He's going to be in the top 36. So when you're saying he's a wide receiver 3, you're essentially saying he's a must start. I do think Jordan Addison might disappoint some people.
Really?
And they're going to be stunned the degree to which the Vikings rely on K.J. Osborn.
That'll be me.
All-important system knower of K.J. Osborn. He knows the system inside and out, guys. You've never seen a guy know a system like this.
No, we've looked into it. No one knows any system more than K.J. Osborn knows the Vikings.
So, I do think Jordan Addison is a wide receiver 3. When you say wide receiver 3, that's usually a must start, especially in like a 2-flex league. He's a must start. But KJ Osborn's going to be no laughing matter.
I have Addison in a couple leagues, and I am just beyond excited for the next month because I think that he can get those intermediate targets that can smooth over the rough weeks where he doesn't catch the long ball or the touchdown. That's what we're looking for.
Kirk Cousins trade speculation was raging even before Justin Jefferson got injured. And this was, again, speculation, not really rumors. There have been some sourced reports on it. And one was pretty interestingly worded, I believe, from NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, where said they weren't trading him right now.
Right now.
He was real indignant. He was on TV like, they just don't even know where this is coming from. Like, they've never even thought about this. Like, this is not even literally a possibility right now. And then they just like moved on to the next segment. Like, oh, did he just? That was kind of an odd qualifier to slip in at the end.
Right at this very second, it is not a possibility.
Yeah. So
in one more second, it could be, but at this second, no.
In the NFL, for whatever reason, it's a league that has decided it's extremely difficult to trade players like Kirk Cousins in the middle of the season. But were Kirk Cousins to be traded, Denny Carter, where would you want him to go? Have you had time to even think about this, by the
way? I mean, Jets.
It's the Jets. We got to have someone. Garrett Wilson cannot be this version of Garrett Wilson. We need someone. First off, Kirk Cousins. I think the Jets, the difference in outcomes for the Jets with Kirk Cousins and Zach Wilson would be like way smaller than people think. He'll come in and just beat Kirk Cousins. He's going to come in and just beat Kirk Cousins.
You're such a
red zone interceptions, fumbles.
You're such a hater, dude.
Well,
come on.
How can you not be?
Come on. He is Montana compared to Zach Wilson.
He is, but he's Montana compared to Zach Wilson in the box score. Compared to Zach Wilson in like the actual winning games, there's a difference. But it's not like monumental.
Well, good and bad things are the same.
They actually, with Kirk Cousins, good and bad things are the exact same. How have people not realized this by now? There is no difference between good and bad Kirk Cousins.
All right, well, look, I forget about the real football stuff. If Cousins were to be traded to the Jets, Garrett Wilson becomes a locked-in wide receiver 1.
Yes.
Breece Hall becomes a potential, well, not a potential, a top 2 or 3 option throughout the season. It's amazing. It would be amazing for the Jets.
It would be amazing. It would be. So he would really help in that regard. He'd really help in fantasy, which is the only thing we care about. The other stuff, I think the Jets fans, they wouldn't be calling him captain very long. I don't think. I don't think he'd be a popular guy in New York City. And I think Kirk Cousins would hate New York City.
I don't think that he would enjoy himself. Yes.
No, he would not enjoy himself, but we'll put a bow on our Vikings talk. Really, really. So Justin Jefferson, that's the worst news of the week. It's going to be the worst news of essentially any fantasy week when the number 1 overall player gets injured. But De'Von Achane nipping at his heels in terms of just the absolute last news we wanted to hear. One of the most exciting players to come around in some time. He was running unsustainably hot, but he was essentially playing a position that didn't exist before. As the running back, they get running at Olympic speeds behind the line of scrimmage before the ball is even snapped.
That's cool.
That position basically did not exist before. He's now injured. He seems out several weeks. By the time you heard this, he might be on injured reserve and out at least 4 weeks. Seems out for several weeks, though. And really bad news for a player with his skill set, where the entire point of him is that like track style speed. Like anything's going to slow him down. Something like this was unfortunately probably inevitable with a player of his size. So bad news that he's out. What is the fallout for the Dolphins offense? It's not like the Dolphins offense is in trouble because they were cooking, of course, in the game and a half, even before De'Von Achane became a huge factor. But just what is the fallout for the Miami Dolphins offense?
Yeah, I think they just, go back to Mostert as the lead back, and then Jeff Wilson, who come off of injured reserve soon. He's a system knower. We talk about KJ Osborn. You want to talk about a guy who knows a system. Jeff Wilson knows the hell out of the Dolphin system. Okay. I mean, wow, that's a knower of systems there. So
yes.
Jeff Wilson should be picked up, I think, in every 12-team league, maybe even 10-team.
He needed to be added, frankly, even before De'Von Achane got injured. And this just cements like we have to be rostering Jeff Wilson.
I do like the tweets that you see this time of year where people are shaming fantasy players for saying, if Jeff Wilson's available in your league, shame on you.
I know.
Relax.
I mean, turn on the news lately. I don't know, was that big of a deal?
Like some people only check their team like a couple times a week, folks.
Yeah, I know.
It happens. We
have not been rostering Jeff Wilson since the second Reagan administration.
Right. Oh, well, what are you doing with your life? Well, you're living your life. You're not checking your team. Anyway, yeah. I do want to just an appreciation for De'Von Achane real quick. Over 3 games, this guy has, I mean, this actually sounds made up, 455 rushing yards in 3 games. Okay. I don't really even understand that number in 3 games. He's averaging 7.5 yards per carry after contact. Okay. So like you said, getting the fastest guy alive in motion before he gets the ball seems to be quite effective here. But the Dolphins rushing game and their offensive line has been really, really good this season. And I think, I mean, honestly, if you have Mostert, it's been a little disappointing to watch Achane, seize the reins of that backfield. Well, it's, how the turntables have turned. and Mostert is back in RB1 range, I think.
De'Von Achane has 38 NFL carries, and he is averaging 12.1 yards on them. Pretty hard to do.
That's a lot.
That doesn't happen even in like the MAC or the Mountain West.
It doesn't. I was going to call him, I was going to call him Jamal Charles, but even he, he's better than Jamal Charles was early in his career.
Again, seriously playing almost like a new position. Raheem Mostert is back in the top 10, at least for this week. But Raheem Mostert has all the same problems he had before. He's a straight line guy. He's very fast like De'Von Achane, but he's not shifty like De'Von Achane. De'Von Achane, again, playing his own position. Raheem Mostert can be threatened in short yardage situations by Jeff Wilson. He wore down very badly as last season wore on. He's over 30. It's one of the lengthiest injury histories in the entire league. People, I'm sure, were like trying to, quote, sell high on De'Von Achane, the most exciting player in fantasy. Got to get him off my team immediately.
Oh,
got to cash in that value. I would think about selling high on Raheem Mostert is where that was going, though.
Okay, yeah.
Because the guy with that injury history and just the way he wore down last year, I would be thinking about selling high immediately in Raheem Mostert.
That's a good call, I think. It is funny how we try to outsmart ourselves, where it's like, oh, I have the most valuable player in fantasy, I'm going to get rid of him.
Yeah, I have a friend who is absolutely reeling. He is like the biggest wheeler dealer I've ever come across in fantasy football. I think it was the same trade. He traded Puka and Achane like 2 weeks ago.
No.
And he's been in shambles.
No,
he's been in shambles. And
I made that mistake with Arian Foster during his really hot start to his first big year, and I said, "Well, this can't last. I'm trading this guy for a bunch of other guys," and that hurt. I will never get over that. Never get over it.
No, yeah, you never do. Never ever do. But Jeff Wilson might not even come back this week. He is practicing, so Jeff Wilson practicing. I guess it's about Monday Night Football. Though, do we really have to?
Yeah, sure.
What was the score of this game? Man, what a tough watch.
I mean, Josh McDaniels got away with it, folks. He got away with it.
17-13, the Las Vegas Raiders outlasting the Green Bay Packers in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Packers had a shot at essentially, I believe it would have been a walk-off touchdown. I don't know how much time was left. Christian Watson, man, I have Christian Watson in a bonus league, a yardage bonus league, also a distance scoring league. And he got his hands on like 3 other deep targets in addition to the 77-yard one he did catch and then did not house. It's a rough night if you had Christian Watson in that kind of league.
And we have on this show, we have been talking about Jordan Love being very inaccurate. And I think that came through. Now, he's gotten away with it many times this season. But last night he didn't. He missed some throws that he frankly should have made quite easily, and it cost the team. And for fantasy purposes, it was catastrophic for everybody involved.
It was. So what do we do with this Packers receiver core? Where it looked like things might be surprisingly fine to begin the year, but as you said on the show, we talked about like, again, not that we had a groundbreaking analysis on this. Like, I don't think his touchdown rate can remain anywhere close to the league leading number it is right now. What do we do with these receivers? We haven't seen them all healthy at the same time. Right now is the first time Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed have even been healthy at the same time. Is Watson the only startable one? How high is his weekly floor in the rankings? What do we do with Doubs, Reed, I guess even Luke Musgrave, et cetera?
Right. So in the past two games, Christian Watson was limited in his first game, but even though he was limited in that first game back, he has 38% of the air yards that leads the team. Doubs has 28%. Doubs has, way more targets, 17 targets to 11 for Watson. But Doubs is seeing a lot of the, intermediate and short area targets, whereas Watson's seeing all of the downfield stuff from Jordan Love. Eventually you have to believe that those start to hit a little more. I mean, he did hit one. He hit one yesterday or against the Raiders. So he has that going for him. But we do have a situation, I think, where Doubs had been running super high. He was in the regression files, I think 3 times already this year. And I was trying to get people's attention and say, folks, he's not going to keep scoring 3-yard touchdowns. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so Doubs, I think, is like a wide receiver 3-ish, maybe going forward.
At most, I would say.
At most. Yeah. Wide receiver 4. And Reed is not playable. Reed is only playing, was only running half the routes in the offense. And Musgrave, just because of the nature of the
I guess Musgrave is really kind of the question mark. Like, can he push for tight end 1 value? I kind of doubt it, but
I tight end 1. I mean, that's not. I mean, if he scores a few touchdowns, he's gonna do it. But he's not actually. Oh, because of the concussion. I'm sorry. His numbers are skewed over the last 2 games because of the concussion he suffered in week 4. But I doubt that you're going to find much on the waiver wire. I mean, maybe I'd play Logan Thomas over Musgrave for a while.
Yeah,
but
absolutely, for sure. I played Jonnu Smith over Musgrave. Musgrave basically isn't a thing. I mean, 5 starts, Jordan Love's completed 16 or fewer passes in 3 of them. And he's a 55% passer right now. And that scans the eye test. It's not like a misleading, like, they're having him attempt a lot of difficult throws, which they kind of are. They are having him throw deep fairly often, but even on the non-difficult throws, like, why was that so inaccurate from Jordan?
And that is accounted for in his completion rate over expected, which is very low. It's bottom 4 in the league right now.
Yeah, so this is not a place. Christian Watson, almost wide receiver 2, I would say, is a boom bust type guy, where the air yards are really cool, and he converted some of them last night. Very, very. So, and a wide receiver 2 is probably too ambitious for Christian Watson. After I say that out loud,
I mean, when he goes off, it's going to be fun, but you're going to have some rough outings. Just know that the Christian Watson experience is going to be a little bit up and down.
Very up and down. Any final thoughts on this game? I mean, I don't know I don't think anyone knows what's going on with Aaron Jones.
So I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Any final thoughts on Packers Raiders?
I think that the whole Jakobi Meyers thing is very real. Our friend Chris Harris said in the offseason, he said, Jakobi Meyers is the perfect receiver for Jimmy Garoppolo. And that made a lot of sense to me with the type of targets that Meyers gets and the type of throws that, Jimmy Garoppolo traditionally makes, which are the most risk-free intermediate.
The one type of throw that he makes.
And so that actually made a lot of sense. Thank you, Chris, for saying that, because I got some Meyers on my best ball teams. Not to say my best ball teams are great, because they all had Anthony Richardson. So whatever. But I do think, Meyers is like kind of exciting, honestly, wide receiver 2 at this point. And the targets that he's taking away from Davante Adams are beginning to be an issue.
Yeah, I think he has. If he's not officially crashed the top 24, the wide receiver 2 ranks, he's almost there. I know Davante Adams had a hurt shoulder, but you get this man 4 targets in a revenge game. Like, Josh McDaniels does not understand human psychology, like, at all. Like, I know that they had Jair Alexander, but give me a freaking break. Like, honestly, like, just give me a freaking break. Like, you do not understand human psychology. If you were not, Jair Alexander's been hurt like half the year. If you can't get Davante Adams more than 4 targets against his former team, you're not going to be a head coach in the NFL very long. You do not have the respect of these players. He already doesn't have the respect of these guys. You don't understand what it's all about, basically. Honestly, just pathetic. I don't know why I'm getting so
keep
upset
going,
about
man.
this, but yeah,
keep
truly,
going.
truly pathetic stuff
Pathetic.
from Josh McDaniels.
Was it good or bad?
There was a big difference between good or bad things in this case with Josh McDaniels and Davante Adams, who just trade him. They said Tuesday morning they're probably not going to trade him. Just trade him. He hates you. You don't like him because he wasn't good for you before you got there. He was already good. And we've established before with Josh McDaniels, you have the audacity to be good before he got to town. That's a real big problem.
It is. But also,
problem.
Why did Davante Adams go to the Raiders? This is my question. I mean, did he not know about the Raiders? Because I knew about the Raiders.
I know. He could have read a Wikipedia once.
You don't win with the Raiders. That's kind of how it goes.
Could have read Wikipedia one single time. Aaron Jones, by the way, what the heck is going on with this guy? What's going on with the Packers injury management?
I don't know, man. But I needed 2 points from Aaron Jones last night, and I was stuck. I couldn't do anything. I had to eat the loss.
He took the L. You said you would never take the L.
I had to take the L. I was forced.
You had to take the L. We have to take a quick break, and then we will be right back after this. Bills Mafia will be out in full force this Sunday evening when Josh Allen and company take on Daniel Jones, we think, as long as his neck feels good, and the Giants in Buffalo, New York, upstate New York. Coverage of the game begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. And don't forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows on Amazon Music by heading to amazon.com/NBC Sports. We're back. Trying to think what we should talk about. Talk about the Colts, Denny. A lot going on. Those Indianapolis Colts, where we knew Jonathan Taylor was going to be snap counted, rationed in his 2023 debut. But we also knew, he's paid him $14 million a year. He is healthy. They made that clear. He'd been healthy for like 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe we can slide him in there as an RB2 and hope he busts one of his patented long runs or 2. Being snap counted turned into 23 carries for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns for Zach Moss. The snap count we weren't told was going to come with a career day for what had been becoming a journeyman running back, someone who could not have success with Josh Allen. What in the world do we make of this really, really just truly bizarre situation where we have the newly minted top 3 or 4 paid running back in the NFL and then his backup who has just been amazing in his absence?
Yeah, and I have to say that congratulations to Zach Moss for being the worst process play in fantasy history. You have, an RB2 on his own team, at least that was our belief headed into the week against the league's best rush defense. Okay. And he goes off. He gets 27 carries. You
didn't even mention too with like the dual threat quarterback we knew was starting the game and going to vulture goal line carries.
Yes, 23 carries, 165, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor was in for 6 snaps. He saw a rush attempt on all 6 of those snaps for 18 yards. I guess if there's going to be a ramp up period, I guess you can kind of still play Moss. Maybe.
Who are you ranking higher for week 6?
I think you have to rank.
Jonathan Taylor.
Moss. I think.
No, I'm running him back with the Jonathan Taylor rank.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that was the ramp up period. One game, especially Jonathan Taylor. Now is going to be after he saw that happen. In practice this week, I'm ready. Like I'm ready. He's going to be acting extra ready in practice this week.
Well, hopefully, I hope so.
And I'm going to keep ranking Jonathan Taylor ahead of Zach Moss until morale improves, basically.
I will say that the Colts went super run heavy, and I guess it's because they were gouging Tennessee for some reason. Their drop back over expected rate was -12 against the Titans. Okay, like that just doesn't happen. They played the ultimate pass funnel, and they operated like Arthur Smith's offense.
That probably happened because they are like a run-based offense to begin with, just with the quarterback they have. And they were having success, like you said, but then also changing quarterbacks midstream. They probably didn't want to against Mike Vrabel. I know they're a pass funnel, but Mike Vrabel will probably be like, oh, hell yeah, Gardner Minshew's in the game. Like we are definitely forcing at least 2 fumbles.
Yeah.
And so that was probably one reason why they stayed super, super run heavy against the Titans. I bet the Jaguars this weekend, 4.5-point underdogs on the road. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this, to be honest. What kind of defense are the Jags? Do they have any trends emerging? They're somewhat solid overall defense. I don't know what kind of funnel they are.
Right. They've been nails against the run lately. I mean, some of their rush defense metrics are a little iffy, a little squishy, but overall they have been good. And this game, this Jags Colts game in week 1 was fun for fantasy. I think it can be, again, as a reminder, when Gardner Minshew started against the Ravens in week 3, the Colts were pretty pretty pass heavy. Sorry. And they also played real fast. It led to a lot of targets for Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. I think Downs and Pittman, I've talked about this on the show before. Like, if Minshew is under center and they're chasing points, Minshew's not going to rush at all. So he's not going to take away those pass attempts that Richardson was taking away with his rushing. I think Pittman and Downs become super interesting in 12-team leagues.
I think Downs is in the top 40 this week. Pittman, it's weird. Pittman's floor isn't stabilized with Gardner Minshew, but I feel like any ceiling odds he had are just gone. It's a weird thing. I thought I'd have him ranked higher this week, but so far I actually have him ranked lower because receivers getting a little deeper. Finally, we've had a lot of new faces kind of crash the top 30. I can't quite decide what to do with Michael Pittman. The baseline is definitely higher, but the ceiling exists with Gardner Minshew? It's kind of what I've been wondering with Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I do get the sense that unless things go really haywire in this game, that the Colts are going to be forced to drop back a lot.
They are. So again, 5-point dogs almost on the road. Again, without Anthony Richardson, I think we just talked about the fallout of Anthony. Anything to add about how this offense is going to look without Anthony? Again, Anthony Richardson, 4 appearances, and he said 3 injuries, and 3 unique and separate injuries. So the bowl case was looking remarkably good coming to fruition when Anthony Richardson has been healthy. But the Bear case, that he's inexperienced, he does not have regard for his own body as a dual threat, is really, really come to fruition. And he's just taking mammoth hits and not sustainable the way he's playing quarterback, essentially, I would say.
Yeah, I like how the post-game report was that the X-rays came back negative, and now he may need surgery and could miss the rest of the year.
Well, I don't even know why we report on X-rays anymore. Here's what an X-ray amounts to in the NFL. Well, he needs an MRI because the X-ray didn't show us anything.
Right.
And I'm not even sure why they even still use the X-ray machine. We got to expose him to some radiation, folks.
Dang, man, that just stinks.
It does stink. But man, it was so predictable. Why just to stop taking huge hits?
I don't know if it was predictable. I mean, there are lots of rushing quarterbacks who never take hits.
They are, but he had so little experience. He had played 12 games in the SEC.
Yeah,
it wasn't like Trey Lance level of inexperience, but
right.
He was making quite the leap on quite the limited number of games.
And maybe his size. I mean, as our own Kyle Dvorak has said, he's Derrick Henry playing quarterback. Maybe his size kind of tricked him into thinking that he could just be walloped by anybody and be okay. A guy like Lamar, he avoids big hits at all costs, and good for him, because he can't take those hits because he's a little wiry, right?
I think the Colts needed to do a better job protecting Anthony Richardson, basically because that inexperience factor, and the legs are going to be what ultimately makes him special in the NFL. But to our chagrin, I think they should have not focused on them so much these first few weeks. Because as the guy's learning the NFL ropes, it just seemed like a bad idea. And so far it has been a very, very bad idea.
It is. It's tough. It's very tough for fans, for fantasy managers, for the Colts. It's tough.
You mentioned the Baltimore Ravens twice there, by the way. Is John Harbaugh, are we ever going to call this guy out for being Brandon Staley, upmarket Brandon Staley, basically, where he's just finding new and creative ways to lose games? And unlike Brandon Staley, there's usually some sort of alibi. Ravens probably shouldn't have dropped 22 passes in this game, which they did drop 8.
8?
Yeah. Stunning. But how does this keep happening to John Harbaugh? Could this really be bad luck at this point that every close game, John Harbaugh has lost 5 of his past 6 games to the Steelers. Like, what is going on here with this guy?
Well, I think, I mean, from a non-analytical standpoint, I think the Steelers get up for the Ravens game. Okay.
Well, why don't the Ravens get up for it? Everyone knows it's like the nastiest rivalry.
I don't know, but hey, look, that was the Super Bowl for the Steelers. Congratulations on winning the Super Bowl, Pittsburgh. Because that's it. I mean, you're not getting any more big games than that. And the Ravens will be fine. If
will they be fine? I mean, I don't know, man. It's the same Ravens team like the past 4 years.
No, they'll be fine. Look, Pat, we're not even having this conversation if one of those touchdown drops are caught instead. They think that, and it happens. It happens. Just stop. What I would suggest to the Ravens: stop putting canola oil on your gloves.
You say it happens. It just seems to happen every week for the Ravens. That there's some reason they lose when they should not. I mean, they've already lost to the Colts. Ugh, yikes.
Well, the vibe we talk about, the vibe with the Ravens is off.
I think they just need a leadership change. Where John Harbaugh, one of the better coaches of the 21st century, but it just seems like he said all he can say, and that he should remain an NFL head coach, but probably for a different team, and that they might need a change of direction. And that he's taken it to the absolute max in Baltimore.
Maybe I think that's a little bit of a reach. I think Harbaugh could be coach for life if he wanted to in Baltimore. It looks to me like the team doesn't really want to be on the field. Lamar Jackson looks miserable out there.
You had the very famous Tim Robinson meme where he said it looked like the Ravens don't even want to be around anymore. I think this is a game that they had won a few weeks ago. And I just don't understand why they are. The name of that character is Carl Havoc. They are Carl Havocing. It's so hard to see. Have you considered wanting to be around anymore?
I mean, look, there are certain teams that do not want to be around anymore. The Ravens are one. The Vikings are absolutely one. No one on the Vikings wants to be around anymore.
They're Carl Havocing the rest of the season for sure. But Denny doesn't like the Tim Robinson show, by the way. Absolutely unbelievable. The only funny show of the past 20 years, and Denny doesn't like it. Anyways, got a few more topics to get to. The Cincinnati Bengals, are they back? Joe Burrow pushed off his calf once, Denny, against the Arizona Cardinals, and we said he was back.
Stop. Oh my God.
More than that, it was a really good game for Joe Burrow. Still kind of inefficient, but finally making big plays. He was kind of finally scrambling around a little bit. He was finally putting pressure on that injured calf. One game we kind of had a false. They're back after almost losing to the Rams. Beat the Cardinals much more convincingly. Now they have the Seahawks, then they have their bye for a humongous game against the 49ers. Did you see enough to declare the Bengals back in week 5?
Sorry, I'm struggling to get over the Ravens situation.
Yeah.
I do think that the pass rate over expected for the Bengals pointed to them being probably back. They were 12% over their expected pass rate against the Cardinals, so they were really letting it rip. And I think that's a good thing. I think you watch the games. I grind the film and I watched the game, and I saw that Joe Burrow was scrambling and he was running around and he was pushing off that calf plenty. So he actually looked way different. I think way different than he had. Hey, look, if you held out hope and you have Burrow, you can play. We said last week you got to see it, and I stick by that. You had to see it.
You really did. You really did.
And then so you saw it. So now you go ahead with Burrow, I think. And if you have Chase, you're looking forward to like nuclear performances for as long as T. Higgins is out.
I have a really dumb, like casual fan thought, but it's so crazy how often. But there's a situation like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, where clearly Jamar Chase is the better player, even though T. Higgins is really good. But T. Higgins is also very good, so he gets a huge piece of the target pie. And I just feel like it so often happens that the very good player in T. Higgins goes out, the elite player plays, goes totally nuclear. It's better overall for everyone, and that I think it just shows that even when you have a really good player like T. Higgins, you just need to focus. So you're never focusing on your star players enough in the NFL.
Yeah,
you're just never, ever focusing enough on your star players in the NFL.
Yeah,
And
well,
I'm not a ball knower, but
no, but it's the whole idea of like it's not about players, it's about the system. We see this.
They're just so obsessed with it now. The system, everything is in service of the system.
Right. Most pointedly, we see this in Atlanta, right? And so it's like everybody's replaceable. No one is a star. Everybody's just doing their job in a system, and if they happen to catch a ball or two, then so be it. But I do think that's what we have a little bit in Cincinnati, because you're right. I mean, Jamar Chase looks like an all-time receiver.
There's literally not even a comparison between him and T. Not that people have said that there is, but the golf, we think that just because T. Higgins is a good number 2 receiver, that like there's not that big of a golf. There's just like a canyon between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, like an absolute canyon.
Yeah, it's not close, obviously. But I mean, the only time that Jamar Chase looks like an all-time receiver is when T. Higgins is not in the lineup. When he is in the lineup, you're like, oh, please make one big play, because that's the only chance you're gonna get. Jamar Chase.
If I were the Bengals, I would maybe simply let Jamar Chase get 250 yards every game.
They honestly, it should be 12 to 15 targets every single game.
It really should. That is what it comes back to. Is there's just no excuse for the players of that caliber to not be getting force-fed target. And the system thing is becoming a hobby horse of mine this year, tweeting about Arthur Smith and the system can never fail. It can only be failed. And no, man, sorry, sometimes players are just way bigger than your system. And Jamar Chase is one of them.
Yes, that's absolutely. We are on the same page.
We're on the same page. We probably won't be on the same page on this final news item, because it's kind of hard to know what page to be on with James Conner's injury. He's out multiple weeks. Really old, undrafted free agent rookie Emari Demercado seems to be the next man up. But before week 5, the next man up was Keontae Ingram. We don't know where he's at with his neck injury. We know that the Cardinals have been putting the entire offense on James Conner's back, and that they had to adjust kind of midstream in week 5, and it didn't go very well. Now they're playing the Rams this week. They're touchdown underdogs on the road. I guess I don't know how high for Emari. What's his name?
Demercado.
Emari, what's the first name? Emari Demercado. How high for him? And I don't know. Just talking about the Cardinals backfield.
You're so excited.
Yeah, Carl.
Oh man, yeah. Pat loves the Arizona backfield. Look, yeah, James Conner's going to be out for a long time, folks. It probably 4 weeks on IR, could be longer according to reports. So that's gonna hurt folks who drafted Conner. Look, I actually don't know. The Cardinals are another sort of informational black hole as far as reporting goes. We talk about the Falcons being one. We don't know much about what's happening with the Cardinals.
Yeah, so, I'm going to go on a real quick. What is up with these enormous Sun Belt markets with like over 5 million people, and they can't find any reporters to cover the teams ever?
Yeah, and so we struggle with the Cardinals, sure. So Keontae Ingram's neck injury, I don't know if that's going to be like many more weeks or no more weeks. We're going to have to see his practice participation. I think this would shape up as an ugly, fantasy unfriendly backfield split between Keontae Ingram and Demercado.
What's his first name, Denny?
Emil. Is that not right?
No, it's not. Emari.
Sorry, Emari. But I do think that there's also the possibility that Keontae Ingram just becomes the lead back. I don't think I'd get too far ahead of myself with bidding on Demercado.
What's his first name?
Demercado, who we know who that guy is. We've heard of him.
Imagine Emari Demercado not being rostered in your league since 2016.
You're asleep at the wheel.
You really even playing fantasy? You call yourself a fantasy player? That's cool.
I thought you knew ball.
I thought you knew ball. Denny, what season begins on Tuesday, October
10th? Hockey.
Oh man, I was hoping you wouldn't know.
Yeah, I saw some people with jerseys on, and I mean, come on, man. The NHL season. Give me a break. Like no game matters until like February.
That is an enormous problem with the NHL.
Come on. Nobody's excited about the NHL right now. No.
I got my redraft hockey team. I'm real excited.
Oh right.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah, you're a hockey head.
I'm a puck head, as they call us. All right. Who's in the regression files this week?
Good question. We have Lamar for sure, because man, he is running real cold right now. We have.
Sure, they'll get right on fixing that. I'm sure. The fifth week in a row, the Ravens can't possibly be this uninspired.
I hope the Ravens put up 35 points this week just to make you feel bad about yourself. David Njoku is in there. The aforementioned Michael Pittman and Josh Palmer. So check it out on Wednesday, the regression files.
Really, really good stuff from Denny. We hope you enjoyed listening. Hope you listen on Thursday. Denny will be back with his Q&A on Friday. The rankings going up on Thursday as well. Keep it locked to Rotoworld.com. A lot of big injury news. That includes, you mentioned David Njoku. We have no idea if Deshaun Watson is going to be playing this week. Just a lot of really big injury situations. So keep it locked to Rotoworld. For Denny, I'm Pat. Thanks for listening. We'll be back later this week.